We talk about the four different levels of negotiation and to tell you what's wrong and what we can do about it. The first level, the traditional level, is getting people to do what you will them to do. Threats, leverage, power, my way or the highway, take it or leave it, batten alternatives to agreement, walking out, etc. The problem is not that it doesn't work. It works. With $20 trillion, the United States can do whatever it wants in the Middle East. The problem is it's really expensive, it takes a long time, and it's not self-enforcing. In addition to that, it tends to cause retaliation and resentment. And so that means the kids kicking and screaming on the floor, malicious obedience at work, or terrorists in the Middle East. It's not a real happy situation. And if you think that BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, works, the next time you're out to dinner with your spouse or significant other, in the middle of dinner, pull out your little black book and say, if this doesn't work out, I got these whole bunch of alternatives here. See what happens. So that also tends to piss people off. And so, but this is the tool of choice in work, at play, in the world, right? The United States can have sanctions on Korea and Iran like it has with Cuba until the end of time. All it's doing is promoting what I call the Alamo strategy. They will fight to the last man standing. And so that's the problem, and it's not a way to approach negotiations effectively. It gets about 25% of the value of what you can get by the model I propose. And to as evidence of that, I'd like to call your attention to the work of John Nash, a Princeton mathematician who won a Nobel Prize for a bunch of theories, including this work, was played by Russell Crowe in the movie A Beautiful Mind. What Nash did is he proved mathematically the 1755 theorem of Swiss philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And what Rousseau hypothesized is when parties collaborate, the overall size of the pie expands to such an extent that each party gets much more than it could get alone with a smaller pie, no matter how big that smaller pie is and how much of that smaller pie the person got. And the really good example that he used is 4 hunters individually can only get a rabbit. Together they can bring down a deer. And that's a different way of thinking about it. You think that the Congress, the Democrats, forced a health plan down the Republicans' throat, then the Republicans got in office, and they're trying to repeal as much of it as they can. Would you say that's consistent or inconsistent with what I've just said? The result is we're not getting a very good health plan. And so that's the problem with that attitude. So let's go, and these are examples of how people act. The people on the left get 4 times as much as the people on the right. They get twice as many deals, and each deal gets twice as much. Now, if you're a hard bargainer and you do the one on the right and you say, well, I'm doing just fine, and that's what, until now, hard bargainers have been able to say, well, if they didn't have the comparison to the column on the left. They were in a vacuum, but now there's a comparison. I've taught 30,000 people in 45 countries over the last 20 years. I've read more than 1,000 studies, 500,000 pages of journals and research material, and it wasn't until 1998 that I began to see that people weren't meeting their goals very well. And over the last dozen years, I began to develop this based upon what happened in the real world, including my own ventures. Okay, power also is unstable and unpredictable. This is in the Middle East. People don't like when I mention what the nationalities are, that you can figure it out. But this tank is not about to run over this little boy. Not with the whole world watching. So You know, you might lose your power in an instant. You might appear extreme if you use your power too much. The way to use power is to use just enough to meet your goals, and the other person shouldn't be able to feel it. That's the way one should look at this. Okay, let's go to the next level.